Dr. Jeeva explains that being ADHD is like having a brain like a Ferrari with brakes like a bicycle. So today I'm spending time at the clinic to learn a little bit more about this often misunderstood condition.
Dr. Jeeva is a highly sought-after specialist psychiatrist who's helped thousands of children and adults get a new lease of life with ADHD.
What is ADHD and how does it differ from ADD?
Well, these days we don't use ADD anymore, that's an old term. So ADD is incorporated in the ADHD. It's a neurobiological condition, highly genetic, caused by the parents more than likely, and it's a cluster of 3 symptoms. One is the inattentive type, is mostly in girls, and that's the old-fashioned ADD, and they call them lazy, crazy or stupid. That's the title of a book. So secondly, the hyperactive impulsive are the guys that fly around all the time. The most common type is a combination of the two, and the cluster of symptoms, the first one is the impulsivity, where the kids blurt out answers in class, they cannot wait their turn, they interrupt others. On the adult side, they have a short fuse, they have a temper, they fire their boss, they break up with their girlfriend, they speed, and they have addictive personality. The second symptom is the overactivity, and overactivity is the little boys, they can't sit still, they're moving all the time, they're restless, they're agitated, and the new symptoms, the symptom that's missed all the time is girls talk too much. Hyperverbalization in the girls type is hyperactivity in the boys type. If you have a mother-in-law that talks too much, check her out, maybe that's a part of ADHD.
What is the difference between child and adult ADHD?
So with age, when you come to adolescence, the impulsivity starts getting less by the time they get to 20 when they finish school or first year university. The hyperactivity gets less, so they get into trouble at school. But the dreamy part, the inattention, doesn't get less, it gets worse. Time management, organization, procrastination, financial management, anxiety and depression, that gets worse. But these first 4 symptoms are soft, subtle. So doctors and parents, everybody misses it. They just think he's lazy. They don't know it's the same ADHD. The picture has changed. You don't outgrow it. The activity gets less, the impulsivity gets less, but this gets worse. So in first year university, the wheels fall off.
Considering the array of symptoms and that ADHD changes from childhood to adulthood, a correct diagnosis is absolutely critical in condition management.
How does being ADHD influence a child or an adult's life if it's not diagnosed or treated?
A child will have language problems, will get worse without treatment, they'll have learning difficulty and things will just become harder and harder. A third of them will drop out of school. Then they have opposition defiant disorder, the temper, mood, belligerent difficulty, that will get worse, they get in trouble with the law. And unfortunately, 40% of the kids in jail are untreated opposition defiant disorder. In adulthood, if you don't treat them, 1 of 5 things happen. 10%, as I said, end up trouble with the law. 15% will switch over to bipolar, and 25% of bipolar illness will switch over to ADHD, so they're cousins. The main presentation in our office for adults, especially women, is anxiety and depression. 35% of them will end up anxious and 40% depressed, so this is very important. And lastly, the substance abuse. So you can have any of these conditions and it will affect various aspects of your life.
Tracy Pinder is a life coach with Dr. Jeeva's clinic. Part of the program's success is a holistic approach which extends beyond the usual course of counseling and medication for patients.
What role does a life coach play in treating ADHD patients?
It's a very exciting role. We look at the client's life holistically. So mentally, we look at achievements. Physical is health, spiritual is fulfillment, and emotional is relationships. Look at where they are currently now and where they want to go, and then helping them achieve their desired life.
How do you monitor improvement?
We set goals in all those areas of their lives, and then they're accountable to me for the goals. And every week when I meet up with them, we see the improvements, what skills do they need to obviously get to where they want to go.
What are the biggest challenges faced by adults and children who have ADHD?
It's generally definitely a lack of self-esteem, and then it's a negative mindset. 96 to 98% of our behavior is unconscious. We only operate on a 2 to 4% conscious level. So then it's looking at that negative mindset, and it's helping them mindfully on a conscious level start moving over to a positive mindset.
Teachers are often the first to alert parents of possible ADHD. But Robert Orr is an example of a teacher who wasn't aware he had the condition until adulthood.
I first noticed that I had a problem when I started working. I'm an English teacher and there's always a lot of work to mark, and it would always take me a lot longer to get my work marked than my colleagues would get it marked. And I also ended up being late quite often for the morning meeting at school. It seemed like no matter how I tried to get to school, I'd wake up earlier every day. I'd set 3 alarms, and I'd put them far away from my bed. And somehow I still managed to be late. People would say to me that I'm not a good teacher. And when you keep getting told that you're tardy, you're not able to get things in on time, and you know that yourself, and you're trying all sorts of things to do that, it starts to impact on your self-image. You start to think less about yourself, and you actually start to believe that you are really bad at your job, and perhaps bad at being a person too.
Since this interview, Robert has shown great improvements in his quality of life, proving that ADHD isn't a barrier to a successful life. This can also be said of scientist Philip Page. While his work didn't suffer, Philip's ADHD affected his marriage, and his wife Sunel helped him realize it was ADHD.
I never knew I had ADHD until I was 42 years old. I was academically very successful, and so in that way I was different, another a commonly held notion about ADHD. And then later on I developed some problems. I knew I had anxiety problems. I was socially anxious. I was afraid of people. And then one day Sunel, my wife, came to me and said, well, that there's something like ADHD and maybe I could have it.
It had a very negative impact on our relationship. We are now married for 20 years. At that stage when we came to Dr. Jeeva, we were married for 18 years. He's my best friend. I loved him very much, but I just said to him, I cannot live with your short temper anymore.
It's important for people to realize that you really need to go and see a psychiatrist, even though there are often bad connotations to doing so. Because having ADHD doesn't mean you are in some way defective. It just means you have a medical problem and you need to address that.
We're just very thankful that there is help available. Yeah, we're very thankful that it made a difference because we were at wit's end.